Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria on the west coast of Canada, situated not far from Vancouver and Seattle on Vancouver Island. I hope everybody is having a great weekend so far, staying healthy, staying strong, and optimistic. Students, in this class, we are looking at speaking part 3, which are the more challenging questions of the speaking interview. And I'm going to explain to you the type of answers that you have to give to get that strong, perfect band 9 score. Hi, honey. Welcome, members. This class is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at IELTShelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have lots and lots of materials to help you improve your communication and your English. Welcome, Fozi. Hi, Rashika. I'll quickly show you these websites as we get going here because you have free speaking with other students. This is the academic website here, blue background. You can click that big red button to join our premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. We're British Council Registration Center, certified agents. And when you log in to your My Student account here, then you will have access to student partner speaking. And when you click on the student partner speaking, you can start to video and audio chat with other students. Currently, I'm the only user in here. There's usually at least a few people in here waiting to chat, so keep your window open. Somebody will join in, and then you can link up with them. And it's the same for the general IELTS. It's the green background here. Again, you can click that big red button to join our premium package there. Okay, everyone. So if you have questions, just send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com and we'll get back to you nice and quick. Fozi says, I have a question. Studying 1 month and spending about 3 or 4 hours a day, is it enough to get a band 6, 6.5 in IELTS? Fozi, it really depends on your current level of English. So it could be if you have some good intermediate English and you're doing some practice exams and learning some strategies. Absolutely. Our courses, Fozi, on our websites are designed for 30 and 60 days. So about 3 to 4 hours a day of study. So that's what we've made those courses for. So yeah, you can definitely get a good score as long as you have some fundamentals in English, for sure. Okay. All right, so this is our final class for this week of live classes. There will be no classes on the 18th, 19th, 20th. That's usual, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, no class. And then we have another week of classes coming up after, from the 21st until the 24th. Now, as we talked about this last class with the members, we are considering changing our class time from May. So for this month, it's going to stay the same. And from May, we'll consider, depending on what everybody tells us on our YouTube community post, when we should do the class. Okay, so we'll check that out. All right, everyone, let's get into some speaking. So this is speaking, so make sure to speak and repeat. I know sometimes it's easy to get lost in the chat and just type and listen, but instead of just typing and listening to me, make sure to speak and repeat. Okay, copy my intonation, my pronunciation. Now, for part 3, to get that strong band 9, you have to show fluency. Okay, and to show fluency, you have to answer the question. You have to give an explanation. And often you should include an example as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on. And we're going to focus on lots and lots of practice right now, okay? And I'll give you feedback and I'll give you strategy as we go along. Now, yesterday we did part 2 with members that was about an object used to control society, and we talked about a traffic light. Okay, so that's just a reminder. We talked about a traffic light. Okay, so you want to make some connections when you can to that part 2. Okay, everyone, so here we go. Let's imagine that you finished your part 2 and the examiner is quite satisfied, you're happy, you're feeling confident, and the examiner says, okay, now we will continue with part 3. For part 3, I will ask you some more questions related to the topic of part 2. Let's talk more about managing society. Definitely a challenging task, especially these days. Here we go. Who is responsible for managing society? The governments or individuals? So answer, explain, example. Okay. So who is responsible for managing society? The governments or individuals? Give me a nice full sentence answer. To get those high bands, it's a good idea to use parts of the question, try to paraphrase it, use your own words. So responsible, take care of, managing, organizing, okay, keeping society under control. These are the words and phrases that you should be thinking about. So give me an answer, governments or individuals? Good. ASCSD says governments, because they have power over citizens. They can always make up new laws. In many places, individual voices are not heard. Okay, I gave you a bit of correction there. You don't have a clear explanation and you need an example and you want to use the question. So I think that, or in most cases, the governments and governing authorities are responsible. So use the question, okay? All right. Don't think too much, students, because in the actual IELTS exam, you do have to answer within a reasonable amount of time, but within a few seconds of hearing the question, okay? Prabhjot says both are responsible for managing society. Why? Give me an explanation, Prabhjot Singh. Okay. Kuldeep says, I'm having mixed views on both. I believe governments should emphasize the control over society while citizens are responsible for following the rules and guidelines to keep people safe. Okay. All right. Keep going. Little Mermaid says, I think the responsibility should be reserved for governments, as they are the ones who have the authority and power, as well as the finances and knowledge to regulate society functionally. Okay, good. Give me an example. All right. It can be a personal example. It has to be a smooth example. It can be a general example. Janiel says both governmental authorities and individual people are responsible for operating the community because both are an essential role to make a better place for living. In a society where governments make such laws and rules and their citizens follow these regulations to create a good society. I'm a little bit confused, Janiel, honestly, about what you're actually saying. Honey says, I believe both are responsible to do their part. Governments are accountable for managing the whole society, and individuals are accountable to follow the guidelines laid down for them. Okay, honey, not bad. That's clearer. Akshay says, I believe governments and individuals both play a vital role, making society better. For example, governments can spread awareness about benefits and providing guidelines to make, okay, and then it keeps going. Sean says both of them must take responsibility for keeping society in order. Governments enact laws and people follow them. would be an example. Citizens vote for candidates who keep their country safe. All right. So keep it simple. I would say primarily it is the duty of governing authorities to maintain peace and order in communities and countries, as this is what they are elected to do. They have the power and ability to represent not just individual needs, but also the needs of the many. These days, forcing people to wear masks and socially distance are great examples of social management for public health. Okay. So here is my answer. So one of the first thoughts that comes to mind these days, okay, again, I said this, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, that you want to really think about your context. So think about your everyday life. You go out on the street. Who's the one really controlling you? Is it you controlling yourself? Or you managing society? Or is it really government managing society? I don't know. I think I do a little bit of management over society. So if I see two kids fighting, I'll tell them to stop for sure. But mostly, I believe governments organize and manage society. And definitely these days, I can see that with all of the lockdowns and regulations brought around or brought about by the government. So here we go. Who is responsible for managing society? The governments or individuals? Primarily, it is the duty of governing authorities to maintain peace and order in communities and countries, as this is what they are elected to do. They have the power and ability to represent not just individual needs, but also the needs of the many. These days, forcing people to wear masks and socially distance are great examples of social management for public health. Okay? So again, answer, explain, example. That's what we're working on. If I missed your answer, don't worry, I'll get it next time. So I'm always trying to catch different people's answers and give you feedback. When I catch your answer and I give you feedback, if I make corrections, check the time in the video and then note that time so you can find it later. Okay? All right. So here we go with the next question. Same idea. Answer, explain, example. And if some of you are thinking, well, these are really weird part 3 questions, this is what part 3 is like in the IELTS, okay? So taxes are used to build and manage society. Do you think this is being done well these days? Why or why not? Now, I'm sure different people from different parts of the world will have different answers for this. I'm very curious. So, taxes are used to build and manage society. Do you think this is being done well these days? Okay. Give me a nice full sentence answer. Hi, Eugene. Thanks for dropping in the panda and the cat. All right. So don't overthink it. Again, you can stretch your response a little bit by saying, that's a tough question, because it's tricky to see the exact budget and spending of governments. However, if I had to say, I would. Okay, so I'm buying a bit of time with this kind of leading expression. That's a tough question because why? Because it's tricky to know the exact budget and spending of governments. However, if I had to say, and now I have to answer, so I can't wait for too long, otherwise the examiner will think I don't know what I'm being asked and they'll just go to the next question. Okay. All right, Kuldeep says, I believe taxes are paid well by citizens these days. Taxes are collected and are being used for construction of roads and providing funds for military forces. Okay, Kuldeep. Little Mermaid says, I think that the majority of taxes these days are in the interest of society, like healthcare, education, and hospitals, especially when fuel taxes help the environment. Okay, Little Mermaid, that's some good ideas. Can you give an example of that? So maybe an initiative to plant trees or to give tax rebates on electric vehicles, something like that. So give me an example. BitCloud says it depends on the country really, but from where I live, they are managing people's taxes carefully, just like the vaccine. They use people's taxes to give back to the people and provide vaccines for a large number of the population without having to pay. Maybe finish that idea, BitCloud. Okay. Akshay says, I don't think revenue generated from taxes is being used wisely because we don't see much development in our society, though I believe it'll be hard to say what exactly is happening in the background. Fair enough, Akshay. Okay, it's a nice original answer. Lovepreet says, yes, taxes are used for the welfare of people, like renovation of some historical buildings, as well as educational projects to speed up the literacy and learning and education level in the country. Okay, Lovepreet, the end of it is off. Be really careful, students. Make sure that when you start with a good, clear answer, you finish with a good, clear answer. Okay, don't overspeak, especially if you start to create some confusing language. All right. Hani Shah says, taxes are paid by society these days, and the allocation of these taxes are need-based. For example, last year the budget was more for healthcare considering COVID. Okay. Zima says, in my own opinion, I think it's not done so well, especially in my country. However, it's the other way around. They use our taxes to live a lavish life and buy property for themselves. So you think, Zima, that a lot of tax money is wasted by government officials spending on luxurious goods for themselves rather than helping to develop society. Make sure that you clearly explain that, Zima, just like what I said. Okay. Rashika says, yes, absolutely. Most of the tariff, nice paraphrasing, Rashika, one more time. Yes, absolutely. Most of the tariffs collected are according to income. Therefore, people who have high wages pay more taxes than people with lower wages. This concept helps to create equilibrium in society. Apart from that, the government uses the taxes to build public infrastructure, and I think this has a positive impact on the entire society. Okay. Good. Yeah, so fairly a fairly interesting and challenging question. On the IELTS exam, students, whatever the question is, don't get too angry or too excited or too happy about the question. Just stay focused. Like some people might be like, oh, I really have an opinion on taxes, but don't get into it, okay? Just keep it answer, explanation, example. So, yeah, so however, if I had to say, I would argue that most of the tax money collected by revenue agencies are spent well for the benefit of society, building schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. In Victoria, the government has built a new bridge and overpass, which really helps the flow of traffic. However, nevertheless, I've already used it. I do think that some money is wasted on certain dead end projects, and some of the money goes into the pockets of politicians. All right. So here is my answer. All right. Repeat after me, students, the question and the answer. It's important to say the question and say the answer when you're practicing. So taxes are used to build and manage society. Do you think this is being done well these days? Why or why not? That's a tough question because it's tricky to see the exact budget and spending of governments. However, if I had to say, I would argue that most of the tax money collected by revenue agencies are spent well for the benefit of society, building schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. In Victoria, the government has built a new bridge and overpass, which really helps the flow of traffic. Nevertheless, I do think that some money is wasted on certain dead-end projects, and some of the money goes into the pockets of politicians. All right. Next question. Here we go. What kinds of technology will emerge in the future to help regulate people? Notice the use of will here. Emerge means to be created. Regulate means to control. Okay? So what kinds of technology will emerge in the future to help regulate people? I think there are a lot of conspiracy theories around this these days. Let's see what you can come up with. So again, answer, explain, example, and maybe tie your answer or connect your answer into part 2 that we practiced yesterday with the members. So we talked about traffic lights. Maybe you can somehow connect into that answer. It's really a good idea to make connections among your answers to create more coherence and more fluency. Okay? All right. Go for it. Give me a nice full sentence answer. When you're thinking about like common questions students ask is how long should my answer be? It should be at least for part 3, it should be at least one full 200 character response in the chat, at least. Okay. Kuldeep says, that's an interesting question. Let me think about it for a second. I can either say that in the future we will see huge touchscreens or electric vehicles everywhere. And how will those regulate people? Okay, Kuldeep, so you have to connect that regulating people, so controlling people. Okay, don't be shy. There's no right or wrong answer. Here, your imagination is the limit. Okay. Little Mermaid says, I think that sooner or later, self-automated robots and technology would play a vital role to help people manage their activities. What comes to mind are self-driving cars in the next 2 decades. Yeah, so self-driving cars would regulate society to some extent for sure. Kevin, nice to see you in the class, says, Upcoming tech breakthroughs which will help establish social orders could be more cutting-edge cameras like those with better resolution, so that social events like traffic offenses can be recorded with greater precision. As well, there might be the invention of ID cards with chips and users' fingerprints installed into them, which helps prevent false records or unproven identity. Okay. Yeah, and even if the technology kind of exists already, maybe you don't know that. You can predict that, okay? Akshay says, one of the technologies that I see increasing these days is the use of CCTV cameras to strengthen the guidelines and make people follow rules of traffic, such as wearing helmets. That's good, Akshay. All right. Now, Akshay, keep in mind that it's for the future, okay? So it's not these days, but in the future. So you really have to answer the question accurately. If you start talking about technology these days, you're not going to do all that well, even if you have perfect English, because you're not actually answering the question. Pankaj Kumar says there are many new ideas created by scientists and programmers to control society, such as chips, which will be inserted in people's arms to control their movements and thoughts. There we go, Pankaj. You're coming up with some creative ideas. Yes, there's a common conspiracy theory that the vaccines for the COVID also contain these microchips or nanobots that are going to be used to control people. I think maybe some of you might have visualized the drone technology controlling people as well. Think about science fiction movies, right? Prathamesh says, I think AI will influence a lot in the future in controlling people. Autonomous will make driving. Automatons, that's the word we're looking for here, Prathamesh. Automatons, it's spelled differently. Automatons will make driving a lot safer, and there will be no need for traffic lights in the future. Nico says, well, I think in the future, governments and engineers will set up traffic lights complete with cameras to catch citizens who abandon regulations. Rajveer says, in my opinion, drones and artificial intelligence will be used in the coming future to manage individuals. Traffic lights will be AI enabled to predict traffic flow and predict the volume of traffic. Yeah, very nice. Great. And make some intelligent solutions to save people's times. Very good. Chester22 says, as far as I'm concerned, our environment is already complete, and if there was an improvement, it would be electric shoes that prevent humans from falling into manholes while walking. Chester, that is super creative. I like it, okay? Examiners are open to creative ideas. Yeah, maybe some electromagnetic shoes that would just simply stick to the side of the manhole and prevent people from falling. Yeah, why not? All right. Janelle says, I think advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence, holograms, and robots will be used to help organize society. As I've just mentioned about traffic lights in part 2, but I think in the next 20, 30 years, traffic lights will be holographic to manage congestion and reduce electronic waste. Clever, Janelle. Yeah, so holographic lights. Why not, right? Okay. So, in my opinion, there will be leaps in technology that will be used to help keep social order, such as AI and drones, rather than having traffic officers risk their lives by standing in the middle of intersections when traffic lights fail, they will simply have a drone robot to direct the flow of traffic. Also, there may be virtual traffic lights in each car rather than on the street to make the cityscape more beautiful and make it more efficient for motorists. All right. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we will not see traffic lights on the streets anymore, but they will just simply be in your car. So when your car comes up to an intersection, you're going to see on your windshield or somewhere a light. Bing, bing, bing. There you go. That would be kind of interesting. Why not? There's an idea. All right. So here we go. What kinds of technology will emerge in the future to help regulate people? In my opinion, there will be leaps in technology that will be used to help keep social order, such as AI and drones. Rather than having traffic officers risk their lives by standing in the middle of intersections when traffic lights fail, they will simply have a drone robot to direct the flow of traffic. Also, there may be virtual traffic lights in each car rather than on the street to make the cityscape more beautiful and make it more efficient for motorists. Okay. Now, follow-up question by the examiner. Will this be positive for society? So is it going to be a positive for society if we're using AI and drones to regulate and manage and organize people? Okay. Again, give a nice full sentence answer for this one. Rashika says, I think GPS satellites and mobile apps will be used more in the future to help regulate people, because nowadays some phones have this ability, such as Find My App. This app can help people find their phone or their vehicle anywhere. Okay, Rashika, that's for the previous. Great. Samar Kaur says, in the future, there would be technology which will convert people's thoughts into writing without the use of pen and paper. This will help disabled people to stand on equal ground with others. Yeah, in fact, Samar, I often use my Google Assistant to write some emails and help me even turn on my lights. So where it's happening, from speech to thoughts is the next step. All right. So is it always good, or is it always a positive? All right. Little Mermaid says, yeah, I'm optimistic about whatever technology scientists and engineers bring into our world. People can be saved by self-driving cars. Drones can regulate traffic and weather patterns. Okay, yeah, so you're optimistic, so you're thinking it's positive. Very nice. Nice use of grammar and vocabulary. It's about a band 8.5, Little Mermaid, so you're on the right track, okay? JK says, yes, definitely it is positive, because right now in marriage function and some big occasions, we use drone cameras for recording and animation, so it's very useful to use this technology in public. Okay, it's a little bit unclear. Your vocabulary grammar, JK, is about a band 7.5, but your coherence is about a band 5, so I can't see you getting more than 6 for that. Okay, careful. You have to be very coherent. That's very important. Akshay Kumar says, it definitely will be positive development. As we see more and more vehicles on the roads these days, it'll be difficult for humans to manage traffic and control people. AI will certainly reduce traffic accidents and allow people to get to their destination more efficiently and quicker. Okay, Akshay, the start is a band 7.5, the finish is a band 6, so careful with that, okay? Make sure you have a strong finish as well. All right. Pankaj says, there are some merits as well as demerits to these advancements because it will help to organize society in a proper manner, but it will also decrease employment. Pankaj, that's a band 7.5 start. It sounds like a little bit of a template. Merits and demerits. Merits and demerits. Benefits and negatives is a little bit more natural. Merits we use in speech, Pankaj, but demerits, not so much. Demerits maybe in writing, a little bit more common, not so common in speech. So careful not to use kind of cookie cutter phrases, okay? And also you want a little bit more on the explanation and example to push your mark up, okay? But as long as you say that fluently, you're at about a solid band 7, okay? Kuldeep says, definitely this will be beneficial for humanity. If there will be electric vehicles, this will lower the level of pollutants in the air, reducing respiratory disease in society. Okay, Kuldeep, good. One small correction there. If you make that correction, it's a good band 8. You need a bit more diversity in your answer to make it a higher band. Okay. Ebby says, yes, it is a positive trend to see technology ease a lot of trouble. I strongly believe it should be strictly regulated by police. Okay, Ebby, I think you're going off topic with that, that it should be regulated by police. So be careful, or by policies. Yeah, still going off topic a little bit, so careful with that. Okay. All right. I think it will be positive for the most part, as this technology will not only help save people's lives, but also their time. And in this way, individuals can enjoy a better quality of life. However, if technology evolves to a point where it becomes superior to humans, that could be troublesome, as humanity could fall under the control of machines. All right. Yeah, some people are probably thinking, oh, Adrian's thinking of Terminator. Yes, indeed, right? When machines take over. It's a bit of a scary thought. I think we're kind of in that direction. All right, I thought I'd have fun a little bit with this follow-up question. Here we go. So repeat after me. Will this be positive for society? I think it will be positive for the most part, as this technology will not only help save people's lives, but also their time. And in this way, individuals can enjoy a better quality of life. However, if technology evolves to a point where it becomes superior to humans, that could be troublesome, as humanity could fall under the control of machines. All right. Hopefully that does not happen. Okay, so shifting gears, and I see lots of great answers, which is fantastic. Shifting some gears here, let's discuss cultural change. So people seem to care less about traditions these days as the world becomes increasingly global. What do you think may be the result of this in future years? So in the IELTS, if you're doing a good job and you're answering the questions well, in part 3, it can happen that the examiner changes the concept related to part 2, controlling society, and starts talking about cultural change. So people seem to care less about traditions these days as the world becomes increasingly global. What do you think may be the result of this in future years? Okay. Janil says my answer is the same. So Janil, you thought of Terminator as well. Awesome. Okay. Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one, everybody. So answer, explain, example. So less about cultural or less about traditions as the world is becoming global. Globalization is a very hot topic for IELTS questions, so be ready for that. What do you think may be the result of this in future years? So what is the consequence of less local traditions and more of a global identity? Give me a nice full sentence answer. I can see that some of you are really thinking. It's quite a change in the rhythm. Smokebug Juice says, how can I answer this question? You'll see, I'm sure some of your mates that are in the chat are going to give some answers to this. So just hold tight for a moment. And you will see some answers, I'm sure. Kuldeep, I love how you're answering quickly. I can tell that you're really processing fast and being fluent, and that's very important. Okay? So Kuldeep says, I think in the future, many communities will lose their cultural identity and heritage. The future generations will have to follow trends of other religions. Okay, it's a good start, Kuldeep. What's going to happen on a global scale? Kevin says, as nations are becoming more homogenous, there could be the looming risk of cultural extinction, since the values and languages of dominant nations could prove more appealing to the masses than those of less popular ones. A case in point is in the Philippines, where a host of people can hold fluent conversations in their mother tongue, Tagalog. Okay. Sorry, I'll read that one more time, Kevin. So a case in point is in the Philippines, where a host of people cannot hold fluent conversations in their mother tongue, Tagalog. Yeah, very interesting, Kevin. Little Mermaid says, I think it may lead to the loss of cultural identity and traditions as people nowadays are becoming much more similar by using the same products and services. It can be troublesome to the diversity of... Okay, Little Mermaid, very good. You're on the same path as Kevin. Yeah. So those are some example answers. Nico says, well, I think in the future, new generations will have less respect, such as not respecting the elders in families. Okay, Nico, I'm not sure where you're going with that. You have to find a bit more clarity. Okay. Vikram says, in the present time, most mortals are not familiar with their traditions and rituals. Furthermore, according to my point of view, this is extremely hazardous for everyone. Vikram, it's kind of strange to use the word mortals to refer to humans. We don't use that in context often, okay? Mortals means that they can die, or humans have the ability to die, as opposed to immortals. But that's kind of used in rarer situations, okay, Vikram? So don't use the word mortals as a synonym for humans, okay? All right. So as nationalism slowly fades into the past, so too do many of the traditions of unique cultures. With this, much of national identity will be lost, such as song, dance, and language. There will be a much more homogeneous world, likely speaking English and eating McDonald's on the run while checking Instagram posts on mobiles. In some ways, it will be sad to lose historical heritage, and in other ways, it may be interesting to step into a new era of world peace and harmony, where all humans can understand and identify with each other. All right. So there's my lengthy answer. Again, complete answers, okay? That's what will get you the band scores. So being nice and fluent, staying on topic. Do not go off topic. That's very important. So people seem to care less about traditions these days as the world becomes increasingly global. What do you think may be the results of this in future years? Repeat after me. So as nationalism slowly fades into the past, so too do many of the traditions of unique cultures. With this, much of national identity will be lost, such as song, dance, and language. There will be a much more homogenous world, likely speaking English and eating McDonald's on the run while checking Instagram posts on mobiles. In some ways, it will be sad to lose historical heritage, and in other ways, it may be interesting to step into a new era of world peace and harmony where all humans can understand and identify with each other. Kind of, again, going into the world of science fiction, but that is the way that we're going. We are going towards what's called convergent evolution, social convergent evolution. All right, and that is natural in our history. Okay, here we go. One more question. What kinds of new cultural practices can be seen in today's society that did not exist 50 years ago? Okay, so what kinds of new cultural practices can be seen in today's society that did not exist 50 years ago? Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. Okay, nice full sentence. Again, answer, explain, example. And I just gave a few, right? Using social media, eating fast food. I'm sure you can think of some others. Again, think about what you do. So what is it that you do when you go out and you live an average day in your city, in your country, in your life that your grandparents never did? So what is socially different now? Okay. All right. While you think about that, I'll read some more answers from students. Janelle says, people appear not to accept their traditional roots, and in the next 2 to 3 decades, due to one global tradition, such as the English language, pop music, breakdance, I think, okay, Janelle, good start. Gipi Acapulco says, in the coming years, I think that globalization will be adopted by many cultures. This includes the way of how they dress and speak. Akshay says, I believe fashion in the food industry has changed greatly in the past 50 years. The way people dress and the foods that they eat these days are definitely impacting and are from the Western culture. You know what, Akshay? Just a personal note, I don't think that's completely true. I think it's interesting. That's how it started. So a lot of people think Western society and Western traditions, but I think that Eastern traditions are just as dominant these days in the global culture. In Victoria, we love Indian cuisine. I eat it regularly. We have tons of sushi and Chinese, Szechuan, Canton foods. There's an amazing wonton house just down the street from me. So I think that it's actually a weirdly false idea that it's just Western culture that's globalizing the world. I think that the global world is actually taking pieces from many different cultures, and it's beautiful to see that. Okay, but that's just a personal anecdote there, Akshay. It's a good answer. In the IELTS, nobody's going to care about what your answer is. They just care about good English, good fluent English. Okay, and I think you did that, Akshay, so it's fantastic. All right. Okay. Yeah, sushi has taken the world by storm. I think you can find sushi everywhere in the world. Anywhere I go, I find sushi. All right. JK says, yes, it is right. Many changes throughout the past decades, like in wedding functions, birthdays that we celebrate now, marriage parties, discos, and dance. But in the past decades, we didn't see much of this. Okay, good. All right. Here's a good one. Chester, I love it. Chester says, I firmly believe that watching Netflix movies and chilling out with folks while doing so is completely insatiable custody, which is a new practice done around the world that wasn't around half a century ago. All right. I added a bit there, Chester, but yes, the tradition of Netflix watching is definitely new. Kuldeep says, well, nowadays we can see people worshiping God on mobile phones, which was unimaginable in the past few decades. Our ancestors used to do prayer while gathering at one place, but now they pray from home. Yeah, it's very true, Kuldeep. Yeah, people do prayers very differently than in the past. Kevin says, I guess emerging cultural practices that have only recently been devised are still those in the past, but with a touch of modern day. One such example in Vietnam is where outfits during Lunar New Year have become more simple and elegant. Also, the way people feast would differ as a result of improved cultural practices. I mean, instead of setting campfires to cook, people now use induction burners. Yeah. Akshay says, but we love fast food in the fashion industry. Indeed. All right. Let's see. Nico says, well, I think most changes in cultural practices that have changed a lot nowadays, harmonized families. Before we needed to share with parents directly. Nowadays, we can do it through our phone. Okay. All right, Nico, again, practice that word order and grammar and clarity, okay? So what kinds of new cultural practices? There are many new traditions that simply didn't exist half century ago, such as checking social profiles and messages on a smartphone in the morning before getting out of bed. Also, these days, people like to dress differently, and they are not as religious as people were in the past on average. This may be due to more hectic lifestyles and a more global perspective. Okay. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Again, it doesn't matter. You just have to show fluency. So here we go. What kinds of new cultural practices can be seen in today's society that did not exist 50 years ago? There are many new traditions that simply didn't exist a half century ago, such as checking social profiles and messages on a smartphone in the morning before getting out of bed. Also, these days people like to dress differently and they are not as religious, perhaps on average, as people were in the past. This may be due to more hectic lifestyles and a more global perspective. All right. So I'm going to stop there for today. There's a couple more questions here, I believe, or at least one more. You can try that on your own. So how has globalization impacted people's attitudes in their daily lives? Again, try that on your own. Challenging questions indeed. And if you like this class and you want to see some more videos in HD that are pre-recorded, where I'm doing speaking interviews with people from all around the world, you can check that out at aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gltshelp.com for general IELTS. There's tons and tons of great video content, strategies, practice exams, mobile apps, and lots more for you there. Students, that's it for me for today. I am going to be doing a couple of other projects over the course of the next 2-3 days, and then I will be back with more live IELTS on Wednesday. So thank you so much, everyone, for all of your comments, your effort, your interaction. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a great start to the next week. Stay positive. Remember that you are all beautiful. You have a lot to give this world. And hopefully I'll see all of you on Wednesday. All right. I'm Adrian, signing out from beautiful Victoria, British Columbia for now. Bye, everyone.